understand the split decision here. I thought J.J. McCarthy had a great day. Sure, he wasn't perfect, nor was C.J. Stroud last year, nor was a lot of people's.
So J.J. C.J. Stroud?
It's route. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he has the potential to be a really great quarterback. That's been my takeaway. Maybe one of the best quarterbacks, particularly in the right system. I thought he had a phenomenal day. I thought Blake Corum, for his size, had a phenomenal day running a 4.5 and then how fluid he looks through the drill. We talk about track speed versus game speed. A 4.53 is great for him, but then you compare him running through the bags and all of his cuts and change of direction, which is playing running back, and he looked as good as anybody out there. And just to round this up, I got to pick a tight end. Theo Johnson from Penn State. Yeah. I felt it was Brock Bowers and Sanders, the guy from Texas. Those were the two that would go first and second round. I didn't know who was going to be the third guy. Theo Johnson climbed up a lot of boards, turned a lot of heads with how athletic he looked at the combine.
All right, so I want to talk about J.J. real quick, and you and I had this discussion over the weekend, so you get exactly what I was getting ready to say. I was one of those people that thought that it was a little bit shaky for him to start. But the biggest thing about that is he went out there and competed, and he got much better toward the end. And that is something that I actually like to see, because it's never going to be perfect from start to finish. But if you finish better than you started and you endure kind of some of the nerves and how sterile and quiet it can be in Lucas Oil Stadium during the combine, I thought it was a really good performance out of him to certainly answered some questions, but maybe the biggest questions about him aren't things that could have been answered in the combine setting. Now, you and I think, differ on how much value we place on Blake Corum at this point. And I want to preface this conversation by saying part of the reason why draft season bothers me is I'm forced to say some things that I don't necessarily want to say about a guy that I really like as a person, right? We know what type of human he is, what he does for the community, who he's been in the locker room. But I want to have a conversation about what I think he is as a player.
I want to have that conversation too.
Okay, so I start just basically from the top, and you mentioned the 40-yard dash number. And I would ask the question, did that run, his 40-yard dash run, in that part alone, did that look smooth? Because it did not look nearly as smooth to me as what the drills look like.
It did.
No, it looks strange, Jake. Like if we're having, not the rest of his drill work, I'm talking about the 40. Because I don't think he can run like that in a game, which is why we did not see him run like that in a game all year long. The second thing for me is the conclusion that I'm trying to get to, or I had been trying to get to all year, that I finally found. I think Blake Corum is really good for what he does, but what he does is a lot of volume. And I don't think he's going to get the volume of carries, at least at the beginning of his NFL career, to replicate the amount of success that he had in college. When I tell you the number 12 touchdowns out of his last 45 come from outside of the 5-yard line, right? So we get the short yardage idea. Maybe the numbers are a little bit blown up on what the touchdowns look like. But he was volume. We were going back and forth over the weekend. You were like, well, what about the end of this game? And what about the end of that game? Yep. What about the end of this game?
Yes.
And my point to you is, yeah, but he had to wear them down on 20-plus carries in every game you brought up to me, except for Alabama's 19 carries, I believe. But you brought up Penn State, and I think that was 26 carries. You brought up Ohio State, somewhere in the realm of 22 carries or whatever the number is. He will never see that many carries in an NFL game. And then my final thing, and I'll let you get in, where do you put him on special teams? Because I don't see a natural fit for him on teams.
Okay, real quick. Special teams, I put him at personal protector there on the
punt team. He's 5'7", he can't see.
But he's great in pass pro.
He can't see.
Yes, he doesn't need to see. He needs to scan A to A, and then you can clean up across the edge. He's great in pass pro. That translates perfectly to personal protector.
Okay,
he's good enough to run down. He's a physical dude. He returned kicks for Michigan and was great at it early in his career. There's places for a guy like Blake because he's a competitor. That translates to a lot of things. He's willing. He had a great quote. He said, "I'm willing to do the job if it means staying up late or getting there early." I know that about Blake. He'll do what it takes. As far as the running back goes, and this is my biggest issue with the combine, because we start to all of a sudden put stock into straight line speed. Football's not played on a track. Football is played in short box quarters. You have to constantly change direction. Rarely do you get the opportunity to run in a straight line. Blake Corum is great and fluid and has excellent feel and vision, understands blocking schemes, which helps him complement his great change of direction, which is him running the football. Even the great running backs like Christian McCaffrey, sure, he's got great straight line speed, but it's going to take a couple bounces to get there. Blake isn't going to be the guy that after a touchback gets a handoff on the 25 and takes it 75 yards to a touchdown. But he's going to wear you down. He's going to get you 6, 7, 8. And then he can still get you 40. He might just not get you that top end speed. Blake's game translates perfectly to the NFL. And I'll say maybe he doesn't get 25 carries for his entire career, but when he's young and he's fresh, this is what the NFL does. They're going to feed him once he proves himself. I think he'll prove himself very early on in his career.
All right, so to comment on the kick returner thing, he returned, I believe, 18 total kicks. I think maybe, I don't know, 6 for punt returns and 12 for kick returns or whatever, average 25. They were against 3, 4, and 5 win teams where he had the most amount of his production as a returner. So I'd like to put I'd like to put that one to rest. And the only reason the question of what do you do in a straight line? The only reason that comes up is I watched too many times this year where he wasn't able to run away from people consistently enough. And I'll go back to last year before he even got hurt. I'm thinking about the screen pass in the Illinois game. That was one of the tightest games that they played of the 2022 season. And this man takes it and runs out of gas. There were probably 4 or 5 other premium top-tier Big Ten running backs that would have cribbed it. And he ran out of gas, and I saw that too many times.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate thing. And finally, I'll say this one last thing, and then I'll let you get in before we go to break, is all of the he does this well, he's a great leader, all that kind of stuff. It was the same stuff that people said about me when they were trying to refute legit concerns people had in my game. So I understand it. Like, we have to separate the player from the guy a little bit.
There might be a lot of running backs in the Big Ten that may crib it when everything's perfect and they have green grass in front of them to run for 80 yards. Sure. But let's go to that Penn State game to seal the game where he makes a cut in the backfield, another cut, and then gets the angle on a safety in a corner to punch it in for the go-ahead.
Everybody was on body up front.
No, but he didn't. He had to make a cut in the backfield. The same thing with Ohio State. You have a safety unblocked in the hole, and Blake sets it up, bounces, then cuts the corner. Finishes the game with Alabama breaking 3 tackles. Finishes the game strong versus Washington. Like, there's not a lot of those backs that can take it to the house don't have the nuance and the vision and the understanding of blocking schemes to how to make that happen. That is more value to me because that's going to happen for the majority of the game. Rarely, maybe a handful of times per season, do you have a perfectly blocked play where you can go show off your track speed.
I don't think I can assign a high enough value to a guy who can't consistently give me a 20 or a 30. Right, and it's just going to be.
He can give you 20 and 30.
Not consistently
he can't give
enough.
You 70.
It's not explosive enough for me. That's
30,
the only
40.
thing I'm saying. Like, I'm not taking away any portion of the game that you're talking about. I think he does all those things well. But I need a guy who I know can get it into that next gear and run away from somebody. I didn't see.
I can't wait to find out.
Enough. We will
find out.
This is the fun part about what we do here. But we're going to take a break.